Greetings, my dear friends. This is Dreamweaver Mystics, as always. Today I want to talk about a concept that is rarely discussed in the mainstream, but which, in my opinion, explains so much about our lives. I'm talking about egregors. What is an egregor? In simple terms, it's an energy information structure that emerges from the shared thoughts, emotions, and intentions of a group of people. The egregor feeds on the attention and energy of its participants, and in turn, it influences their behavior, thoughts, and actions. Sounds like esotericism? Maybe, but let's look at it from another angle. What if an egregor is simply a scientific phenomenon that we haven't yet learned to measure? What if collective consciousness is not a metaphor, but a physical reality? Today, I want to explore this topic from two perspectives, from the mystical, esoteric point of view, and from the perspective of science, which is increasingly finding evidence for what the ancients spoke about thousands of years ago. But before we begin, I want to say, these are just my thoughts and guesses. I'm not claiming this is the ultimate truth. I'm just looking at the world and asking questions. So, let's go. Part 1. What is an egregor? The word egregor comes from the Greek egregoroi, which means watchers or guardians. The term first appeared in ancient texts, but the modern understanding of egregors was formed in occult and theosophical teachings of the 19th and 20th centuries. An egregor is not a deity, it is not a spirit, it is not an angel or a demon, it is a structure, a network, a field. It is born when people start thinking about the same thing. The more people, the stronger the egregor. The stronger the emotions it generates, the more energy it receives. And here's the most interesting part. The egregor begins to live its own life. It influences its participants. It pushes them towards certain actions. It protects itself. It fights other egregors for the energy of attention. Sounds like science fiction? Maybe. But let's look at the manifestations of egregors in nature and science. Part 2. Egregors in nature. Nature is full of examples of collective behavior that closely resembles the work of an egregor. Take a flock of birds. Thousands of starlings gather in massive flocks and dance synchronously in the sky. They move as a single organism. No one commands them, they have no leader, but they know where to fly, when to turn, when to rise, when to fall. Scientists call this swarm intelligence, but what is this if not an egregor? The collective consciousness of the flock, which emerges from the interaction of many individual consciousnesses. Take a school of fish. Thousands of fish move as one. They dodge predators without colliding with each other. How do they do it? There are scientific explanations, sensory systems, chemical signals, visual tracking, but doesn't it look like something more? Like a field that unites everyone? Take an anthill. Millions of ants live as a single superorganism. They build, gather food, protect the nest. Each ant performs its role, but together they form something that scientists call collective intelligence. No single ant knows the big picture, but the egregor of the anthill knows. Take a beehive. A swarm of bees makes a collective decision about a new home. They dance, exchange information, vote. In the end, the swarm chooses the best location. This is not just instinct, this is collective intelligence. This is an egregor. Scientists study these phenomena under names like self-organization, swarm intelligence, and collective behavior, but the essence is the same. Individuals, when united, create something greater than the sum of their parts. Now, let's apply this to humans. Part 3. Egregors and science. For a long time, science ignored the concept of collective consciousness. Too esoteric, too difficult to measure. But the situation is changing. In the 2010s, studies emerged showing that groups of people meditating together could influence their environment. Experiments with thousands of people meditating in different cities showed a reduction in crime, fewer conflicts, and an improved atmosphere. Of course, these studies are controversial, but they exist, and their number is growing. Another area is neuroscience. Scientists have discovered mirror neurons, brain cells that activate when we see someone else perform an action. We literally feel what another person feels. Our brains synchronize. This is the neurobiological basis of empathy, and perhaps the basis of the egregor. When people gather together, their brain rhythms synchronize. This has been proven. At concerts, at lectures, in movie theaters, the brains of the audience begin to work in the same rhythm. This is not magic, this is physiology. But doesn't this explain how an egregor works? When millions of people watch the same event on television, their brains tune in to the same frequency. When millions of people discuss the same news on the internet, they create an information field. This field exists. It influences those who enter it. Consider the theory of the information field. Some scientists suggest that the universe is not just matter, but information, that there's a unified information field where all knowledge, all events, all thoughts are stored. Some call it the noosphere, some call it the collective unconscious, some call it the egregor of humanity. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, a French philosopher and paleontologist, introduced the concept of the noosphere, the sphere of mind that surrounds the Earth. He believed that humanity is evolving toward a single collective consciousness. This is very close to the idea of the egregor. Vladimir Vernadsky, a Russian scientist, also wrote about the noosphere. He believed that human activity is becoming a geological force, that we are creating a new layer of reality, a layer of information and mind. This is also about the egregor. Part 4. Egregors in everyday life. But let's come down from the heavens to earth. How do egregors manifest in our ordinary lives? The egregor of family. Every family has its own traditions, its own rituals, its own secrets. This egregor can protect family members, or it can, on the contrary, pressure them. What will people say? That's how it's done. In our family, we don't do that. That's the voice of the family egregor. The egregor of a workplace. You come to a new job and feel the atmosphere, friendly or toxic, competitive or supportive. You adapt to it. You change your behavior. That's the egregor at work. The egregor of a city. New York, London, Tokyo, each city has its own character, its own rhythm, its own energy. Residents of one city differ from residents of another, not only in culture, in energy. That's the egregor. The egregor of the internet. Social media, forums, YouTube, each community has its own egregor. Thousands of people discussing the same topic create a powerful field. This field can inspire, or it can destroy. Hate campaigns, cancel culture, online bullying, these are not just actions of individuals, it's an egregor that picks you up and carries you. The egregor of YouTube. Right now, you and I are creating the egregor of this channel. Everyone who watches, comments, likes, we are all part of one structure. We think about the same topics, we feel the same emotions. We are creating a field.
Part 5. Can you control an egregor? If egregors exist, can we use them consciously? I think yes. The first step is to realize that you are in an egregor. You are in a family. You are in a workplace. You are in a country. You are on the internet. You are on YouTube. Awareness is already half the freedom. The second step is to understand which egregors influence you positively and which negatively. Some egregors give you strength, support, inspiration. Others drain your energy, cause anxiety, push you toward actions you later regret. The third step is to learn to disconnect from unwanted egregors. Turn off the TV, leave social media, Stop reading the news. Spend time in silence. The fourth step is to create your own egregores. You can create the egregore of your family through shared rituals, shared goals, shared love. You can create the egregore of your project through a shared idea by attracting like-minded people. You can create the egregore of your channel, like you and I are doing. Egregores are tools. They can be used, they can be managed, but first, you need to see them. Part 6. The dark side of egregores. Egregores can be light, but they can also be dark. The egregore of war, the egregore of hatred, the egregore of fear, the egregore of consumerism, the egregore of addiction, alcohol, drugs, gambling. These egregores also feed on people's energy, and they are very powerful because negative emotions, fear, anger, aggression, provide more energy than positive ones. Remember how easy it is to catch a panic? How easy it is to believe a fake news story? How easy it is to start hating someone you've never seen? That's the egregore at work. And it's hard to fight against, because when you are inside an egregore, you feel like you are acting on your own, that these are your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions. But they are not. These are the thoughts, emotions, and decisions of the egregore speaking with your voice. How to tell the difference? Ask yourself, do I really think this, or was I taught to think this way? Do I really feel this, or was I infected with this emotion? The more awareness, the less influence of the egregore. The more silence, the cleaner the signal of your own soul.
Part 7. The egregore of humanity. And finally, the largest egregore, the egregore of all humanity. The noosphere, the collective unconscious, the sum of all thoughts, feelings, actions of all people who have ever lived. This egregore is enormous. It is incredibly powerful, and it influences each of us. We are all connected to this field. We all contribute to it, and we all receive signals from it. Sometimes you catch yourself thinking a thought that came from nowhere. Sometimes you feel anxiety for no explainable reason. Sometimes you have a dream that millions of others are also dreaming. That's the egregore of humanity. We are not alone. We have never been alone. We are connected by invisible threads, by inaudible frequencies, by intangible fields. This is not mysticism. This is science that hasn't yet found the tools to measure it. But that doesn't mean the phenomenon doesn't exist. Conclusion. I don't know if egregores exist in the form that esotericists describe. I don't know if they can be seen or measured. I don't know if they can be controlled. But I know that collective consciousness exists. I know that groups of people create something greater than the sum of individuals. I know that we influence each other across distances. I know that shared thoughts and feelings have power. Egregore is just a name for this phenomenon. Call it the noosphere. Call it the collective unconscious. Call it swarm intelligence. Call it a field. The name doesn't change the essence. The essence is that we are connected. And the sooner we realize this, the more consciously we will live. The more consciously we will create our own egregores, the less we will fall into those of others. On this channel, we are creating our own egregore, an egregore of seekers, an egregore of those who doubt, an egregore of those who ask questions and are not afraid of the unknown. I am grateful to each of you for the energy you put into this space. And that's all for today. This was Dreamweaver Mystics. Until next time, and remember, you are not alone, but you are also not a herd. Awareness is what distinguishes a participant in an egregore from its victim.